In a land torn by endless conflict, there lived a monk named Tenzin. He had spent most of his life meditating in the tranquil monasteries of his homeland, seeking enlightenment through quiet contemplation. Yet, as the years passed, the world outside grew louder and more violent. The war between neighboring tribes ravaged villages, destroyed families, and left destruction in its wake. Tenzin had always believed that the path to peace was through understanding, but now, the very world he had vowed to help was drowning in chaos. There were whispers of an ancient place, a sacred peak called the Mountain of Peace, where the true nature of peace could be understood. It was said that the mountain's summit revealed the universe's deepest truths, a revelation that would allow one to stop the endless suffering of the world. Many had set out on this pilgrimage, but few returned. Some came back broken, others never returned at all. But Tenzin, determined to find peace for his people, knew that his last hope lay in this journey. He made his decision. He would climb the mountain, no matter the cost. The journey was grueling. The path began in dense forests where the trees whispered ancient secrets, their roots tangled in a web of timeless energy. Tenzin's feet ached from the rugged terrain, and the air grew thinner as he ascended higher. He was not alone on this journey. Along the way, he met other travelers, pilgrims like him, searching for something greater. There was Kaya, a young woman who had fled from her war-torn village. She had lost her family and all sense of hope. "I seek peace," she said with hollow eyes, "but I do not know if I can ever find it again." Then there was Kiran, an elder who had lived a full life, yet felt a gnawing emptiness. His body had slowed with age, but his spirit was restless, hungry for answers he could not name. "I have seen much," he said, "but I have never understood why suffering persists." Tenzin nodded in silent understanding. Each of them carried their own burdens, each of them believing that at the summit of the Mountain of Peace, they might find a way to quiet the storm inside their hearts. As the days passed, Tenzin's body grew weary, and his mind began to fracture under the weight of his doubts. The higher he climbed, the harder it became to breathe. The path became steeper, the wind more violent. His thoughts turned darker, more desperate. Why must it be so hard? Tenzin thought. If peace exists, why does it feel so elusive? At times, he stumbled and fell, his body bruised and scraped, his spirit wavering. He asked himself if he had made a mistake, if this journey was nothing but an impossible dream. In those moments, Kaya and Kiran would encourage him, their voices soft like the wind, reminding him to take each step slowly, with intention. Finally, after days of exhaustion and struggle, Tenzin reached the summit of the Mountain of Peace. There, amidst the stillness of the high peaks, he found an elderly sage seated in meditation. His presence was so serene that it seemed to melt the very air around him. The sage's eyes were closed, yet he seemed to see everything, as though the entire universe unfolded within him. "I have come to find peace," Tenzin said, his voice a weary whisper. The sage opened his eyes, and a knowing smile appeared on his face. "Peace is not something you find, Tenzin," the sage said. "It is not a place, nor a state to be attained. Peace is already within you." Tenzin was stunned. "But how can that be? The world is in chaos. My people are suffering. How can there be peace in this world of pain?" The sage motioned for Tenzin to sit beside him. As Tenzin did, the sage spoke softly. "Peace is not the absence of suffering, nor is it a retreat from the world. Peace is the presence of understanding. It is the willingness to be with what is, without fear or resistance." Tenzin's mind struggled to grasp the sage's words. But how does one embrace suffering? How do I bring peace to my people, to my land? The sage's gaze was calm, unwavering. "Peace does not come from changing the world, Tenzin. It comes from transforming how you relate to it. The world will always have suffering, but if you hold peace in your heart, you can bring peace to those around you, simply by how you meet them. Peace begins with compassion, for yourself and for others. Peace begins with acceptance." Tenzin sat in silence, the weight of the sage's words settling in his chest like a quiet breeze. His heart opened in a way it had never before. The struggle he had felt all these years, the conflict, the need for answers, began to dissolve. The mountain, the sage, the world itself, they were not separate from him. They were a part of him. "Peace," Tenzin whispered, "is not something I find. It is something I become." The sage nodded. "Yes, and it is a practice. Every breath, every thought, every action, peace is in all of them. The more you practice peace within, the more the world will reflect it back to you." As Tenzin descended the mountain, he felt lighter, his mind clearer than it had ever been. The world outside was still full of suffering, but he no longer saw it as a burden to carry. He understood that peace was not a destination. It was the journey itself, one step at a time, anchored in compassion and awareness. When Tenzin returned to his community, he was not a man with grand answers or miracles to share, but his presence, his quiet and grounded energy, spoke louder than any words could. He helped others learn that peace was not something to chase, but something to embody, each moment, each interaction, and each breath. And so, the Mountain of Peace was not just a place on the map, it was a place within, and it was always with him, wherever he went. The moral of the story is, true peace is not found in distant places or in the absence of suffering. It is an inner state, cultivated through mindfulness, acceptance, compassion. The journey to peace begins with embracing the present moment, transforming our relationship to the world and to ourselves, and recognizing that peace is something to be embodied in every action, thought, and breath.